Now look around, this is what they call greatness.
Jongravesshow. Today we're talking a little bit about The Last of Us getting an HBO series, and I'm gonna sprinkle in a little bit of the crunch culture as well. But starting out with the HBO series, looking at the recent article that did come out about that, which that the Last of Us HBO series co-creator confirms first wave's character but leaves one redacted, and also the HBO is turning the PlayStation game The Last of Us into a TV series. And honestly, for the most part, I do like the fact that they are trying, at the very least trying, to take video game series and put them into other mediums. Not necessarily through movies, but more or less through TV series. Because, hey, it's working for Castlevania, and why wouldn't you do it for this series? Which, again, if you can boil it down to brass tacks, right? Like, The Last of Us, along with Uncharted, is literally, well, also with God of War, right? Those are like the top games in which that you can take the story from those, plop them into another medium, and then basically you can still have the movie, right? Thing is, though, that I always kind of wonder about though, is that would those stories be as respected if they were in these other mediums, right? Because let's be real, we love Castlevania, but that's only because that's more or less like a gothic horror type of thing. You know, talking about vampires and vampire killing and all that crazy thing. So that is taken a bit more seriously than a series that basically is just a video game equivalent of The Walking Dead. So that kind of thing, right? And this is not to basically diminish the story of what the Last of Us has to tell. Is just when you really look at it, like, you know, like straight on, like, yeah, like The Last of Us, it does have a really good story, but in terms of the thing like that makes it amazing, it is the gameplay, which again moves me right over to the crunch section of this story, right? Because again, the HBO stuff is really good. The real thing is that Naughty Dog has been coming under fire for, you know, most of its crunch periods and whatnot. The same thing that has happened with Rockstar and plenty of other companies that go out to say that, hey man, if you want this game to be great, you need to be a perfectionist, you need to have all this and that, and you need to want to be able to put 100% of your effort into this to make things great, right? And again, I cannot say that is wrong, right? Even though, because I'm not gonna go too deeply like into the article though, but some people, they have reported, like, you know, them working like all these crazy hours, and somebody, like, there was a construction crew above their office, and a pipe fell down and almost hit somebody's desk and whatnot. And of course, Naughty Dog, like that, they got the people out and whatever. I mean, like, they're not EA or Konami where like that they're monitoring the people and whatnot and telling them like that they can't take breaks and whatnot. They're offering them food and giving them encouragement and everything. And yeah, they do tell you, like, in the interview, but then again, what job doesn't ask that, right? What job doesn't ask you, hey man, are you willing to work like 12 hours over your limit or something like that? You know what I mean? Like, because they say that on average applications today, right? You know, are you willing to work these extra hours? Are you willing to come in on up on weekends and work this and that? It's an average thing, right? But basically, the problem that does come with the crunch, though, is the fact that there's this thing now that's coming, which did kind of pop up in Red Dead Redemption 2, which was all of the crunch was kind of surrounding the idea of you need these details, you need these you need these crazy details of you killing the animal, skinning the animal, doing this and doing that. And to a certain extent, I will say that it does add a lot to the story, or at the very least in terms of adds a lot to the atmosphere. When you want a character to feel a certain way, when you want them to press up against the wall a certain way, or sit next to somebody, or poke at the fire or crazy things just like that, right? To where that you want them to be, you know, like if you want the game to be great, then you want to put these things in there. However, I will counter that, because again, even though I do think that if you want to be great, you need to put 100% of all of your time and effort into it, because that's how people succeed in this world, right? But on the flip side of that, though, right? And this isn't to diminish what The Last of Us is, right? Because let's not forget, the biggest strength of The Last of Us will always be its story, not its gameplay. And anybody who says that, most likely, you know, like that, they really love The Last of Us. But in my own humble opinion, right, I'm like, of the game of this type, right? Because again, we've seen games of this type, right? You know what I'm saying? And two other ones like that share a very similar gameplay style is, of course, Uncharted and Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider has by far the best gameplay in this style, with allowing you a lot of options in terms of climbing, stealth and killing people with weapons and upgrades and all that crazy stuff. It has really good gameplay, but in terms of the story, it's very, very, very weak. And looking at a game like this, right, technically you shouldn't have to put this much like crunch time into getting this game out, right? Because again, like, there are games out there that don't have this much effort put into them, that don't have this much thought put into them. I mean, look at half of the EA games that came out last year, right? With all the Assassin's Creed games and Anthem and half the other games released under their title, right? You know what I mean? Konami could make millions with all of the products in which that they have, right? You know what I mean? Even though Nintendo has a lot of characters under their banner, they still don't do anything with them. So it's that thing of like, yeah, I get it, right? Because again, yeah, sometimes you have to come in on a weekend. Sometimes you have to come in and work an extra like 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you have to do that. However, to justify it by basically saying like that The Last of Us 2 and all of Naughty Dog's games are great because of the crunch, that's a bit unfair to say, because let's be real, some of their games really aren't that great, right? I mean, we only have 2 Last of Us games. We have 6 Uncharted games, right? And also we have a whole bunch of other spin-off games that aren't as serious, you know, games like, you know, Sly Cooper and whatnot, games that are a bit more cartoony in nature. You know what I mean? Like Crash Bandicoot and whatnot. You think all that crunch right there, like it helped Crash Bandicoot, but then again, they might not were crunching for that. So it's very difficult to say. But then again, what do I know, right? So please let me know what you think about this in the comment section. This is just my opinion. I was covering 2 news stories. And again, I would like to see a HBO series of The Last of Us. But then again, I do wonder what they would do with it, because the big strength of The Last of Us 1 wasn't necessarily only the story of Joel and Ellie, but more or less us wanting to know the story of Ellie before she met Joel before he met Ellie, his time with Tess, because we wanted a little bit more of that, his time with his brother Henry and his brother, you know, that kind of thing, right? We wanted to see more of the other characters, but you know, they just didn't do that. So hopefully, if this does become an HBO series, they do more with that. In terms of the crunch, well, that's just something like that's just gonna stay in gaming culture, even though technically we don't like it and they tell people about it. It's still a problem. But that is what I gotta say about that. I'm out.